This week is Extraordinary Week at NZXT, where you can get $100 off any order with a subtotal over $1,000. This sale includes custom builds and pre-builds such as the super popular H1 Mini PC, Creator PC, and Streaming PC. All of NZXT's builds are built with high-quality parts and are expertly cable managed by skilled PC builders and are backed by a 2-year warranty on all parts and labor, including RAM overclocking for peace of mind. To take advantage of NZXT's extraordinary sale happening this October 13th to 14th only, click the link in the description below. This is the small InWin case. It's time for a new personal build. I said I wanted to build one around my 30, I was like, where is my 3090? It's over here, my Founders Edition 3090 card. And that means I gotta not get rid of, but SLI is dead and therefore so is Nebula. The 928 that I have is far too big, in my opinion, for a single card. And I don't actually want to water cool this card. I really like the aesthetics of the Founders Edition card. And so I wanted to sort of find a way to build a new system around this guy. And that was turning out to be a little bit tougher than I had anticipated because one, I like the angles and things that are going on here. I like the heat sink being visible. Some of these fins are not perfectly spaced, so I have to go through and like bend those. I like the X design, I like the color. And I basically on Twitter a few weeks back was like, I really miss when cases used to just kind of be out there and crazy. And you know how many people were like, have you seen the Cougar case? You should do a build in the Cougar case. The problem with that case is it's just too transformery looking for this build. I've considered it, using it again, but no, and you know, I kept finding myself coming back to loving the aesthetics of my InWin 928, and since I had done that build, they came out with the 925, which is the smaller version. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna take a look at the case, we're gonna take a look at some of the components, maybe we'll start doing a mock-up in there so I can see what the size is gonna be like, because the 928, it's a double wide case. It has two 420 millimeter radiators, 420, which is three 280s. Yes, no, 140s. Wow, see that again. It's got two 420 millimeter radiators up top, which is three 140 millimeter fans each, but they're side by side, if that gives you any indication of how wide it is. And then the case is much wider than that because it comes down at kind of an angle and then goes flat. The overall shape of this guy is the same, but it is a single wide chassis. And it uses 120 millimeter fans, which means I can use my Lee & Lee fans that I did a review about with their nice daisy chain setup so that I can have a nice, clean build. Already I'm liking the size of this. It's still a thick boy, just like me. Now remember, my game room was built kind of around the 928 as well. The way the shelves even that I had them mounted on the wall are specifically placed because of the height and the size of the 928. And so I want to make sure that I keep that all intact without having the chassis change size too much. She's a heavy girl. I like them like I like my meat. Fatty. Ta-da! This is much like the 928 in that if you don't have a 928 kind of next to it, it's like the Founders Edition card. For the 3090, you don't really realize the size of the chassis. I mean, really, it's just a 928 that went, like if I had the 928 here, it'd probably be about the same height, almost a little taller. It would definitely be wider, and it's definitely longer. But it looks like the overall, they fixed it. Aw, they listened. Remember how I complained about the 928 having that really porous, like it's rough metal? You touch it, you get skin cells and stuff all over it. So it's like smooth. It's like the same as this right here. Which means I was trying to figure out if I was gonna end up painting this or not like I did the 928, but I don't think I'm gonna have to now. Get out of there. Look at that. See, it's such a nicer material, you can see it. Like here's the thing, I go into a lot of these builds and I think people just assume Jay already knows exactly what he's gonna do. You're funny. I figure it out as I go, just like as I make videos. It's the way I do it, it's the way people like it. Can't change for nobody. The back piece comes off very similar to the 928. Fans can go right there. Same anodizing quality as you'd expect. One thing that's missing from the 925 though is it doesn't have the polished, like chamfered edge, which was very Apple-like, that feel like that. So that polished edge is not there anymore. which is sort of unfortunate.
Case sucks. Okay.
Send it back! So let's put it this way, the 928 is so big, it'll actually fit that EE-ATX, or whatever it's called, the one that the Dominus is, which is a super wide board, which would probably fill up this entire thing. And it will fit 2 power supplies on the back horizontally, top to bottom. I ended up taking one out because I didn't need to. But this one's got mounting spots here for your SSDs or hard drives. You got what looks like you can fit 2 SSDs or 3.5-inch hard drives right there, or any peripheral device like an RGB controller or whatever. You've got your built-in little cable combs and stuff. Look at another SSD mount right here. I love how there's a ground wire screwed in right there. That's cool. I wish that there was a grommet. I miss grommets. I feel like a lot of companies are just doing away with them now. Why on earth does it have an air filter? When there's nothing sealed on this case. So the way you get to the radiator mounts, both for the front and the top, is you don't slide this out like I started to, but you undo these nuts, which also double as the thing that a stopper for the side panel, basically. Then you can get to your front rad right here, which will hold a 360. Then you can get to the top as well, which also holds a 360. So I can do 2 360 millimeter radiators in this, which is obviously more than I need because, like I said, I think it's freaking out a lot of people probably that I don't want to really water cool this thing. I want to get this thing not water cooled, but sort of mocked up. I want to get the graphics card in here and see how it fits with the vertical mount, because I do think I want to vertical mount this guy. So here are the other parts I was planning on using. And I know this is the part where you guys are gonna be like, oh, insert Intel shill. I had already made arrangements for these parts prior to the announcement of the 5900X and all of that sort of stuff. I also said that in my personal build, I'll probably keep it Intel because this system does not get a lot of use. And I feel like putting a 5900X in there would be completely a waste of a good CPU when we can do fun stuff with it around here. The 10900K probably won't even overclock it all that far. But I've got some stuff here from EK too that I thought would look kind of neat in here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use it yet, we'll see. So this is the ROG Maximus 12 formula. It's got the water-cooled VRMs. Let me show you that. I don't normally water-cool the VRMs in my systems. I haven't done that since Skunkworks was like in its orange iteration. But this is a pretty neat setup here. So you take your Quantum block, you install it where it goes. In fact, why don't I go ahead and just put the CPU in here now? That way the socket's covered, everything's taken care of. Let's try not to devour this. All right, CPU is installed. So what you do is you take your block and you install it right wherever it's gonna go. Then you take this guy here. This is the EK Quantum Momentum for this particular motherboard. So what you do is you take an Allen key. So what this allows it to do is it allows this back piece here to slide. You see that? Like the whole thing is in 2 pieces that slides. You take these fittings, so you put one here, you put one here, here, and here, and then what'll happen is this will set down on top of them. That'll push in there, and then when you slide it back, that locks it in. And then what you get is this sitting on top, lining up the block and the VRMs and all of that. So you basically end up with just a distribution block that's on top of the CPU and on top of these VRMs. I think it would have been nice just to have a single monoblock there without this thing sitting up super tall. But regardless, that is, I'm thinking about using this. This is the EK Quantum Kinetic, which is a block/pump reservoir. That's also clear without any of that matte color. And I have to sleeve this because EK, why the hell do you continue to charge a premium for this stuff and you don't sleeve the cables? This just says, I don't give a stuff. And I'm sorry, but if you're gonna charge as much as you guys do for these products, sleeve the f***ing cables. Anyway, but the thing is, I'd be able to mount this right here, flat against the wall, which could look really nice. But I don't know if I'm gonna have enough room there for that and the front rad, you know what I mean? So let me put that little bracket. And this is the kind of stuff that I don't think people realize how much back and forth you kind of have to do just to make sure that Did anybody pay attention to how this came apart? So if I do a front mounted rad, the fans and the rad have to be on the inside. And I want to do pull fans through the front, because remember, the nice thing about the in-wind fans is the LEDs are on both sides. So no longer get to deal with that whole, the LEDs are only on one side. I can put the fans like that, pulling air through. All right, let's get it mocked up. What I want to do next is I want to mock up and install the vertical mount. So I want to make sure that I don't want to mount all this down permanently because I won't be able to get to these ever again. I also need to make sure this doesn't like poke into those. I am not feeling too confident with the weight of a 3090 in this. Oh God. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Oh wait, I didn't screw it in up top. Dude, the whole thing is flexing. Blah, blah, blah.
That's the case that's bending. It's not even the bracket anymore.
So make a little support dealie there. Easy, because I got metal to mount to. I've got holes to use. There's another little bit of an issue is how long the card is. I might have to do it like this on the front of the rad. It's like I might legitimately not have enough room for this. Which means I'd have to get creative then on the radiator mount, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I like a challenge. Now, if I stick that radiator back in there, yeah, I very well might have to mount this to there, which I'm not a huge fan of because then it's gonna block a lot of the airflow. With it being spaced out, I don't think it's gonna cause an airflow problem really. I think it'll cause an air noise problem. So I'm not married to the idea of using this reservoir. Plus, if I mount this there, that's gonna really block where the cables can come through a lot. So I may not be able to use this guy. All right, so I need to start wrapping up this video because this was just intended to kind of show you guys where we're going with some of this. I wanna throw some RAM in here. This is the Ballistics Max from Crucial. Same stuff we were using on our RIP-GN, only this is the 4400 megahertz. The difference is this has RGB on the top. And I am gonna be using RGB RAM because I'm probably gonna do a lot of white accent lighting. Okay, I gotta lower the graphics card. It's okay, I should be able to do that with it still mounted up. See, this is why we do these mock-ups. This is why it's so important because, yeah, you quickly realize things like this happen. That's why I pre-fit the radiators and all that, because sometimes you get to go building and you're like, oh. See, with it being lower now too, that means I don't have to come up with as big of a ugly bracket to make it less sagging. Don't scratch anything, Jay. Now I can put my RAM in. And I kind of like the way it looks down lower like that too, if you want to know the truth. Woo! That was the other concern. Will it touch that? Like we were dealing with the other power supply? Geez, I'm just getting lucky. I'm torn though about those tops. I mean, if they're white, that'll be nice, right? Because these will be white, this will be white, this will all be white. But now I'm like, if it ends up being too much, then I'll change them out for the 5100 DIMMs, which are all just black. So here's an EVGA cable, right? Like it doesn't even look that bad now. Because then the graphics card, like cables aren't really, because if this was a normal graphics card, they'd be like, you know, kind of coming up like that. But I like the way that this looks. You know, it's one thing that's worth pointing out though, is if you followed this channel for, let's say my last several personal builds, one of them sitting back there still kind of falling apart on the back table there, Skunkworks, is a staple of this channel that unfortunately is sitting in a state of disarray because I've just been too busy to do anything with it. That was replaced with Nebula. And prior to that, I mean, every build I've ever done for myself has featured 3 things that were just something I was known for. 1, water-cooled everything, especially the GPU, which we're not doing in this. 2, SLI, all the things. As long as I've been doing this channel, I have been running SLI graphics cards. For a while, I had 3-way SLIs going. So as you can see this time, they're not SLI, they're not water-cooled, and the third thing, it's not on the Extreme platform. When I first built Skunkworks, its very first iteration was actually a 4790K, which was Devil's Canyon. And then that was on what, Z77, I believe it was. And then from there, it ended up moving over to X99 platform and then X299, and then that's still X299. And then my system at home right now, Nebula, is X299, sitting on a 9980XE 18-core CPU. So I downsized from 18 cores down to 10 cores, as you can see, with the 10900K, and a non-water-cooled GPU. And I think the reason for that, and I don't feel the pressure to do it, is one, the mainstream CPUs have definitely got a clock speed advantage over the older Skylake-based Extreme platform CPUs. And two, there's more cores than you need now. And since I do not need a system that is a rendering beast, which this would still be obviously with CUDA capability, and GPU acceleration in Premiere, although not great, is still a thing. I'm not rendering videos and stuff on this. I'm doing gaming and some occasional live streams. And so I don't feel any pressure to run super high-end hardware, he says as he throws a 3090 in here. So, okay, we're gonna wrap this up. So as you can see, these are the components we're going with. I am leaving the card air-cooled for obvious reasons. I think the chassis I chose is the right one. I love the way that the lines on the Maximus there all like kind of feed right into the angles of the graphics card. It just looks so good. I kind of want to come up with some sort of an ABS filler panel for down here though. It would look good too if I did that back here, a block off plate to make this all solid. This is where you guys have to check in on part number 2, where I figured out how the heck I'm gonna do this. Because what I did on the 928 was I just passed everything through fittings through the wall and had everything on the backside, but there's not enough room for that back here this time. There's just not enough room. So this is where I'm gonna end today's video. As you can see, the general layout of how this is gonna be. This kind of a bronze color looks really good with this shiny black. I like it. I think it's gonna turn out well. So check back later to see how things turn out. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. I was like, I like a weird twitch in my eye right when I said that. It's happening. All the troll comments are finally getting into my brain and they're causing me some sort of an aneurysm. Thanks.